Hello there, I'm autistic, and this is A Case of Autism. And today we have a bit of a special kind of video for you. I am currently joined in call with my good friend and collaborator, B. Fiddle. If you want to say hi, go ahead.
Hello, I'm the JRPG expert where optical drop won't cover.
Alright, yeah, you kind of beat me to the punch there. Alright. So, this is an interesting episode or video, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. Where this was actually recommended from a commenter, to which I want to say thank you for your feedback. This is exactly what I'm looking for, is like a discussion about these kind of things. And like to prove that I'm taking it seriously, I wanted to like look into it more, but the thing is that this character comes from Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I have no experience with the franchise, and I've been trying to think about how I could go about researching this. But then I remembered that you, my friend, very unfortunately, happen to be a fan of the franchise.
Yes, I unfortunately am an anime. One might call an anime fan, and I'm here to educate your uneducated ass about Xenoblade character is probably autistic.
Yes, indeed. So, yeah, this is another thing that I'm trying to do with this series is, while it's very easy for me to just, like, sit in front of a camera, spout my opinion, and just, like, leave it at that, I want to, like, again, I want to make this a conversation as much as I possibly can, and I want to be able to get people on board to express, their feelings towards, certain characters that they're familiar with, express, like, the evidence they think would indicate towards the idea of them being coded as autistic. And interestingly enough, like from what you told me, like you never even considered it with her until like this comment pointed it out. So I want to get your thoughts on like how did you feel about that once you like first saw it, like initially?
Yes, first off, I want to say thank you, Terrapog, for bringing this comment to this video. It was certainly experience seeing that suggestion and then looking back at the character and thinking, oh, I kind of see it now with her.
Right, yeah. So I guess without like pussyfooting around the issue anymore, let's just dive right into it. So give us a brief synopsis of like who this character is and like the relationship she has towards her respective game that she debuts in.
So this is a character named Sena. She's the girl with the Gall. Insert meme here.
Girl with the Gall. Yeah, you've told me about that meme for sure.
Yeah. And she is one of the main 6 party members you will control in the game. It's gonna be impossible for me to not talk about this without getting into some sort of spoilers. Like, it's not like I'm gonna be spoiling like the major twists of the game, but like for like a broad stroke of things, I'm gonna say maybe like up to like chapter 5 and 6. Generally, like the first impression you'll get of Sena in the game, she's again girl with the Gall. She loves exercising. She's the strong girl who's like sort of a meat brain thing going on, similar to her Kevez counterpart Lance. She loves working out and such, and she has this generally peppy attitude towards most things.
Sounds very like high energy, tomboyish kind of personality.
You can kind of see it in the design too. Maybe I'm also just saying that because like, muscle girl works out. That must mean tomboy.
From her design, my initial impression is like she falls in line with that same like anime archetype as like Amy Rose or Tinkerton, where it's like small, like very cutesy, girly-looking character with a massive fucking hammer that could beat your goddamn ass if they wanted to.
She does use a hammer in her base class, so there is that. Let's see, she's also best friends with the cat girl Mio, which there are reasons for that I will get into later. But for now, I think that's the general basics as to what her character is like. If you know the energetic tomboy character, that's pretty much what you'll get with her most of the time.
Alright. Simple but effective. I can respect that. Alright, so, like, that's the character as she is, but if we're gonna be making, like, a claim, like, you know, she's ASD coded, like, where's the evidence for that? Like, what kind of stuff has she done that would indicate that she would fall in line with those particular traits?
Where do I start, honestly?
Oh, boy. Strap in, ladies and gentlemen.
I guess the first thing to cover would be, as Terrapog pointed out, her hyperfixation on exercise. Granted, I wouldn't say this alone automatically means she's autistic coded, but it is worth pointing out since, along with other evidence later on, I think this does at least support the fact that she's autistic coded. She loves, you know, exercise, working out, such like that. When she found, when she became friends with Lance, like, they basically became workout buddies and such. There's even, like, one scene, like, I think, like, early game where they do, like, some sort of Tai Chi or whatever, and they make these, like, loud moaning noises or something. It's something that's weird to even describe. It speaks for itself.
Yeah!
I am very uncomfortable with the energy that we've created in the studio today.
Do you think you could make the argument that they could be stimming?
What does that mean?
Alright. You know what? It works out for the sake of explaining to the audience. So essentially, stimming is the act of doing a sudden or repetitive, sometimes both, sort of motion in order to pretty much... It can mean a lot of things. It's a very vague term. Usually stimming is in reference to just making weird random noises spontaneously just to, like, let out some built-up energy, or just, like, moving your hands a certain way.
You know what? That describes the scene I'm talking about very well, actually. This is where I'm gonna have to go a bit more in depth onto the character. Despite the fact that she's she's the peppy tomboy girl, it's kind of sort of a mask for the fact that, like, she actually feels, like, socially isolated and lonely. This is mainly seen in her backstory, where we see flashback cutscenes of, like, her, like, working hard and such, like training as a soldier, but she gets like looked down upon by, like, other people in the, like, other soldiers who are also training. And then she's ended up, like, approached by Mio, who sees her for more, like, she actually respects her for like the dedication she's putting on, and, like, basically from there, like, they become, like, really quick and close friends, and she basically looks up to her as a role model. There's another scene later on where they're, like, having, like, lunch together or something, and Sena, like, orders, like, fish and chips. I don't know if you remember if it's fish and chips or not. Like, she orders fish, like the same dish as Mio, basically, and Mio, like, questions her, like, I thought you didn't like fish, and Sena's like, oh, you know, I can't skip out on my protein, and Mio basically tells her, you know, like, you don't need to copy the stuff I'm doing, just, like, be yourself and such like that. So basically, she, despite the fact she puts on this, like, peppy, like, strong front, she tries to, like imitate those she's really close with, because she looks at them as a role model, and she's very clingy to Mio, especially, and her arc is basically realizing that she just needs to just be herself, like without needing to like rely on like other people to like basically define her.
That is very interesting that you say that, because at least from my own experience, I know that I tend to mirror the people that I hang around a lot, just so I can like feel like I better fit in with them, and I know that that's very true for a lot of people as well with ASD.
Oh, I absolutely do that sort of thing. Like,
oh yeah.
There's like several points like with her, like with this point in Later Dead. I'm just kind of realizing that like shit, this girl's just me. Like I didn't expect to like relate to her like this hard.
Yeah, and the idea of like putting on this facade because you want to fit in, like that, like the moment you said she had like a mask, I was just like, oh.
There's like another scene as well where she's like talking to Lance, and like she wants to be seen as like the strong girl and such. And God, I would need to rewatch that scene to like refresh myself on it. But it's basically just her like wanting to be seen as just like the front that she puts on to like basically hide her feelings of loneliness, which maybe not like in a vacuum. I guess like you could argue, you know, this isn't necessarily like doesn't necessarily mean like autistic coded, but considering that maybe forgive me for the projection here, given that I am autistic and I relate to some of these things with like wanting to like match up to my peers, this feels just a little bit maybe not intentional, or at least like intentional or coincidental. Like the signs just feel there now that I'm taking a close look at this.
Right, yeah. Like the whole point of like discussing this stuff, in my opinion, is because like we find that connection. Like there's not really like the point of games is for us to be able to project ourselves into the lives of the people that we play as. That's why they're called avatars sometimes. And just like the fact that it's this whole like journey of like accepting who you are and that's okay, like that's a very important thing that like a lot of people on the spectrum have difficulty coming to terms with. And I think like that alone, like I know we haven't like reached it yet, but that's looking like it could be like pretty like positive representation if interpreted that way, for sure.
Absolutely. Xenoblade Freeze characters have pretty great character growth that I'm obviously not going to go into like all of it now, but they all like have their own like journeys and such that they have to overcome. And for Sena, it's pretty much just be yourself. Another thing with her is that she'll sometimes like she has a thing for puns. She's like talking to Mio. She's like facing some sort of like internal dilemma, and I think that gets a way to like distract herself. She'll say, "Hey, like nice weather we're having." Mio points out to her that, "Oh, actually, it's been overcast." And Sena's like, "Oh, like, oh, that's right, it is. I guess it is clouds. I guess my head was in them today." And like, she's basically like making a pun as like a social icebreaker. And like this form of like making jokes as a way to like socialize is beyond relatable to me. Like this was a scene I thought about until like I was like doing research for this, and like I saw someone point that out, and that made me just go, holy shit, I feel called out by this.
That is so interesting. Just like the way I'm interpreting that scene without having seen it, it very much sounds like she's just trying to make a conversation starter, got called out that weather's not good, and then like tries to make make a pun just like as a form of like conversing.
It is clear that she's trying to distract herself from like what's going on in her mind, but just the fact that she does this, like I said, like a non-sequitur sort of thing, it's just damn. Yeah. Like I can say from experience that like I've gone through this sort of thing of just like even just not just if I don't have stuff in my mind, just this thing of like just trying to make conversation, be called out for it, and then just try to keep it going. That's just, yeah, I've experienced with that.
I know for a fact that a lot of the people that I know personally on the spectrum love making puns, myself included. Probably because, like, finding, like, play on words, like, bringing attention to that kind of stuff is just, like, it's just funny. Like, we're just really good at, like, seeing that kind of stuff that, like, that puns get born from in the first place. So, yeah, I think, I think that would add some light credibility to that as well.
I guess to circle around back to an earlier point, the hyperfixation on exercising I mentioned at the start, like, that alone, I don't really feel like that would be sufficient, but, like, the whole thing with, like, masking and, like, imitating, like, her role models and such, I feel like the hyperfixation on exercising, it only helps to, like, just strengthen the case that she is autistic coded. It just feels like these points just work together well with each other.
It's like I said in my other videos, it like, if just given, like, the small, like, indication, then that alone would not be enough to, like, just make this kind of assumption. It would have to be a collection of all these different contexts that, like, really make it out to feel like truly a character that's worth saying this is representation, for sure. With that being said, I know we kind of lightly touched on it a little bit, but I think it is worth now discussing. Would this be a positive or negative example of representation?
I would definitely say positive, like, without question. I mean, one, it's obviously because, you know, she's a good guy, party member and all that. You get to see, like, her story unfold and such.
I mean, just because they're being a good guy or on the side of the good guys or being a main character, that doesn't necessarily make them good representation all the time. There are definitely examples of gay characters that are, like, main characters that end up, like, perpetuating stereotypes. I know there was that one Netflix cartoon series that definitely went in that direction a little bit.
Fair enough. I recant that point then.
Yeah.
Still, like, the way they, like, reveal, like, her like, backstory and such, like, it all just feels, like, natural. It doesn't really feel like fall into the pitfalls of, like, stereotypical, like, autistic representation where, like, something like a savant or, like, she's socially, like, impaired or such. Like, you see, like, how she is, like, on the front, and then, like, slowly over the course of the game, and, well, in traditional Xenoblade fashion, really, you get to see all the ins and outs of, like, what makes her mindset, why she is how she is today, and then you eventually see just the conclusion of her story. And, like I keep saying, that she just needs to be herself and all that jazz.
So this is interesting. You keep you keep talking about how she's like she puts on this mask of being a very strong and confident type of character, but she's being told to be herself. So what would you say her true self is actually like? What kind of character would you say she actually is, like, underneath all that?
This might be half-assed for me. I can't say for certain. I'm not the writers, you know. This is obviously gonna be my personal interpretation.
Well, like, do they not show, like, who she really is, what she really is?
Like, personally, I feel like it is both. Like, it's both, like, the girl who loves to work out, the girl with the gall, and, like, the self-conscious, like, lonely type. I feel like both of those, like, are part of her, even if you could argue that she, like, crafted that image, like, herself, like, with the mask. I want to say, personally, I feel like it gets to a point where, like, she's able to just have that be herself. That's just how I see it. Maybe that's
interesting. They just put up a front so much that they actually, like, just fall into truly being it or believing it. I guess that's something, maybe, personally, if they just say it's a front but don't actually show what she's really like, then it's like, is that really, like, her putting on a mask at all? Like, it almost kind of feels like the message gets a little muddied at that point.
It's kind of hard to say.
Are there any examples of her, like, actually, like, being portrayed as being, like, skittish, cowardly, or, like, nervous?
There's definitely examples of her being, like, self-conscious about, like, how people see her and just a little bit, like, introverted, contrary to like her extroverted personality.
Okay, alright, so it's got like, it's definitely got those examples that they show. It's just like not heavily shown off, probably because you primarily spend like 60 to 90% of your time with her in combat, where she's going to have that front. So
that probably does not help, especially with with the JRPG-isms of like, I think that enemy got the point sort of deal.
yeah. That. All right, so yeah. I know I did like kind of debunk like the idea of her like, oh, she's a main character, so she obviously must be good representation. But I think like her being like in a pivotal role in the narrative at all definitely leads to like a high level of importance for the audience to pay attention to and look up to.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of, that's the idea I had in mind, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. I think it's fair to say that's what you were going for, more or less. So like, I think it's fair to say as well, from what little you have shown me of her, is that like she's just a very entertaining character in general, like very energetic, positively motivated, and just like,
something I just realized, there is an argument that could be made that maybe she just feels this way to be like her peppy self, like around like her friends specifically. Granted, like it's not really she gets shy or like nervous around people she doesn't know. That's just kind of something maybe that's something you could argue if you really want to go there.
It's potential. I know usually
that like her friends just bring out like the best of her or something like that.
That could be it. Usually like this is true of anyone. They'll just feel more confident around people that they are familiar with, feel trust in, confident with. But you could also,
yeah, I can definitely relate to that. That's why I brought that up.
You could also make the argument that like being around people that you're familiar with could actually help you lower your guard to like be more yourself and more vulnerable in that way. So maybe she is being. Maybe when she is in the middle of combat, she's being like cheery, preppy. That is who she is. But being like confident and strong is more of the front. Or maybe I'm just pulling shit out of my ass. Who knows, really? As from what I understand, she seems to have her fair selection of memes in the community, as you've shown me, which I may or may not put on screen right now. We'll see. How would you say the community feels about her? Like, what are the general consensus of her character?
Generally, with her and like basically a good amount of Xenoblade 3 characters, I see I don't really see the neurodivergence like theory like brought up. Well, aside from that common suggestion, but generally, I see she's a well-liked character. The characters in 3 in general just seem to be well-liked for just the growth they experience, like the personalities, just how like you get lots of time to like just like spend with them and like see them like how like both sides of these both characters of like both factions like get to know each other and such. Sena and Lance, like especially, they weren't crazy about each other at first, being on opposite sides, but then, like I said, over time they became like basically workout buddies and just become the type of characters to only share one single brain cell, that sort of thing.
Interesting. I could definitely see a lot of fun in that kind of level of camaraderie, with just like a bunch of dumbasses that get along really well and just end up achieving their goal. There is something like engaging and fun about that sort of dynamic. That alone.
The memes also do help in her popularity.
It would definitely lead to a positive impression, is what I mean to say, and that would in it of itself would lead to a considerable amount of memes. It is very funny though to think about, like, you showed me that she has like a little yippee thing, which is something that is usually associated with the TBH creature meme, which is heavily associated with autism sometimes. So I chalk that up to coincidence, but it is very fitting at the very least. Yeah. So with that being said, what would your overall consensus of the character in terms of their representation be? Give me your thesis statement. Give me your conclusion.
I'd say the fact that, well, I guess this is once again speaking for me, the fact that I was able to relate to just feel as though it feels like her character was speaking to me specifically, and that looking up her looking up to people as a role model, imitating them. It felt like I was being told in a way, you should just be yourself, and seeing her story play out. I think seeing her story play out and such. I think that more than anything, that tells me it's positive representation because of just being able to see her struggles. I feel called out, but not in a bad way. It's a nice feeling when I know that the game is just trying to speak to someone like me and just give me a message in life.
That is interesting, and I think a character like that, and interpreting them in that way is going to be very powerful for someone in the exact same position, which is probably going to be more common than some might realize. And without having any context to the game other than just very brief understandings of what other people have said, what you've shown me, this sounds like it would definitely be in that realm of positive representation if coded as ASD, if interpreted that way.
It's why I like Xenoblade, man. I like the depth that these characters have.
Yeah. I'm not too familiar with Xenoblade at all. I think you mentioned that there's actual considerable evidence to assume of all characters Shulk from the first Xenoblade to fall in line with ASD sort of tendencies, which we'll have to say for another day. If people really want to see that. Yeah. I mean, if demand is high, if people want to see the funny shirtless guy from Smash Brothers be labeled as such, then sure, I guess. But I can't imagine Xenoblade would get high requests. No offense.
Something. I'm really feeling it.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Terrapog, for suggesting this in the first place. This was a real thinker, and I really appreciate the suggestion.
Yes, thank you very much, Terrapog, and thank you, B-Fiddle, for joining me on this discussion and helping my ignorant ass make heads or tails of this.
If you need a JRPG guy again for specific shirtless Xenoblade character, you know who to call.
Oh yeah, definitely. If I ever do need to get around to him, I will definitely hit you up for sure. And if any of you are interested in this man's content, I will leave his channel link in the description of the video. Go check him out. I'll leave him in the pinned comment too. Why not?
I appreciate the plug-in.
Oh hell yeah, dude! I would personally recommend these videos. I helped with the thumbnails, if anything. So if you want to see more stuff that I've had my hand in, then by all means. But yeah, thanks for watching. Tell us what you think. Do you think there's validity to this character? Do you think there are other characters like Shulk from Xenoblade or from any other franchise that you would think would constitute as being ASD, and why, and do you think we should look into? Like I've said at the beginning of this video, I want to create discussion around this. So if you have any thoughts or feelings, definitely let us know.
That's why I was very eager to participate in this to begin with. Just this type of discussions are just these aren't things you see a lot in, I guess, maybe the gaming community in general. it's interesting to just think about these characters as just ASD coded, even if, enemies the same, like, it's just interesting to think about.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with, like, trying to have a discussion about this. And I think, like, thinking about that kind of context within, like, the realm of other characters is worthwhile, because, like, no one's explicitly making characters like this, so we might as well look where we can and just, like, look at the ones that are coded, at the very least.
Or as others might say, cope.
Tell me what you think, leave suggestions, subscribe, like, all that dumb shit. And until next time...